What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? They are out of business now, but in the early 90s, I worked at Radio Shack for a year and a half. When people would return an item because it didn't work, the manager of the store would just box it back up and sell it again as if it were new. When I asked him about it, he said, "Hopefully, they will return it to a different store." I nearly got fired when I refused to sell a guy a walkie-talkie CB radio that I knew didn't work. The guy was on his way out for a hunting trip and was buying 3 of these for him and his friends. We had 2 and the third was the broken one. In front of the customer, I told the manager that one didn't work and I had tested it. The guy was happy I told him. We arranged for him to get the last one he needed at a different store, and off he went. The manager was livid with me and nearly fired me. I'm sorry. I'm not sending people out into the forest with gear I know doesn't work. Hilariously, a few months later the manager was caught stealing from the store and got fired. Used to work at a graphic design firm. All our Adobe software was pirated. From what I've heard about Adobe, if I was in that game, I'd be pirating too. Back when Photoshop came out, it put a lot of the old-school lithographers out of business. My dad was one of these. When he got laid off, he copied the stack of floppy disks with Photoshop on them, bought an Apple computer, and started his own company. I used to work surveillance at a casino. From something like 3 stories high ceiling, we could zoom in on money on the table games and read the serial numbers of the bills. We could see the pips on the dice. The policy was to not look down on blouses. This is true and also very annoying because I work on the floor, and the guys in surveillance can't be bothered to do their job and give us a lot of, can't really see anything when we call them. They're busy looking down at a blouse. In Vegas, everybody's got to watch everybody else. Since the players are looking to beat the casino, the dealers are watching the players. The boxmen are watching the dealers. The floormen are watching the boxmen. The pit bosses are watching the floormen. The shift bosses are watching the pit bosses. The casino manager is watching the shift bosses. I'm watching the casino manager, and the eye in the sky is watching us all. Maple sap can be trucked in from other states, and where it's turned from sap to syrup decides on the state it comes from, not the location of the trees. You need a maple syrup cartel, like in Quebec. Olive Garden breadsticks are just Fran's brand breadsticks, garlic, salt, and butter. ETA. It's margarine, not butter. I forgot there is a difference. Yeah, but I'm not buying Fran's sticks when Olive Garden will give me an unlimited amount that is already prepared. If you don't hear music when you're supposedly on hold, the operator simply muted their mic and can still hear you. I've heard interesting and damning things while they thought I couldn't hear them. I was setting up a new account with the phone company. Back in the landline days, I think the operator meant to mute her mic, but didn't. She had to do some stuff in the background while I was supposed to be on hold or something. I could hear her typing, but at the same time, she was telling someone in her office about a party she'd been to the previous weekend. It was hilarious, both her story and the situation in general, but I couldn't laugh out loud. I had to stifle myself to hear the end of the story. Working in insurance, hundreds of people have access to your SSN with no security clearance or background check. The same is true of every HR office in existence. Worked at a major cable ISP and their 4 billing cycles. They upgraded the billing system but did something wrong, and all but the current cycle got a late charge. But instead of fixing it immediately, we were told to credit their account if the customer called in. I did the math, and for the size of our city and the 3-4 of people wrongly charged, it was over $1 million. Most people just pay their bills and don't look too close. Edit. It was Time Warner, which was bought out a couple of times in my area. If you were on live chat with customer care, I could see what you were typing before pressing send. I watched people work through grotesque, racist, sexist statements, fraudulent lies and mistruths, meticulous grammar fixes, and their whole range of emotions in real time before deleting and typing, "Okay." Arby's manager replaced the expiration stickers on the bread with new ones. I guess the bread would last longer that way. I threw out 100+ pitas with green fuzz on them after checking the manager's work. Yep, the Subway manager used to do similar. Prepped all the veggies and meats like way over prepped and everything went out. Most things last 2 days. Lettuce after a couple of days becomes a slimy sludge. They basically wanted me to replace all the date marking stickers and call it a day. Not only was it horrifically bad, but it was time intensive. But I wasn't having it. I discarded all of it. Bins of waste. I told the area manager. Nobody did anything, just said to be quiet. Then the manager disappeared off the face of the earth, thankfully for our sakes. I worked for a restoration company. One time, an elderly woman called them to clean her house. She was a hoarder or there had been a fire. I can't remember. Anyway, the company charged $57,000 for the work to be done, but in actuality, they couldn't even get the charges to add up to $20K. She couldn't file this on her insurance. There are other examples of gross overcharging, but this is the worst I know of that wasn't on the large loss side. The lesson here is if you have water, fire, mold, or hoarder damage and call in a company to clean it up, go through every line item on the invoice. Every single one. I had a mold remediation, and I did go through every line item and made them explain to me the reasoning of their charges. It ended up knocking off around $3,000. Your luggage at an airport isn't really handled with care. I worked baggage at an airport. Nothing is handled with care. If it's marked fragile, your only hope is nice baggage handlers. You should avoid packing breakable things at all costs. Edit. Not totally true. I never had one, but we were trained on how to properly handle a casket. The training was, be very careful, don't drop it, and for the love of God, don't sit on it like it's a horse. True story. That's what our boss said. I worked for a large construction company, and the sales guys would intentionally omit items from contracts because they received incentives for what would then become a change order. Me. You forgot to include any framing in this contract. Sales weasel. Oh, I guess it's a change order then. Customer cries. The difference between the high-quality deli meat sold at M&S and the regular deli meat sold in other grocery stores is that we changed the label. We would literally stop the production line, wait for the guy who ran the label machine to swap them out, and then start it back up again. This is not an uncommon occurrence across any product. ETA. The concept of perceived quality fascinates me. I work in wine manufacturing, and it's incredible what people will spend on wine because the packaging makes it appear high or low quality. Marketing also plays a big role, of course. Store generic brands don't advertise, or advertise much less, so costs can stay low. Cheaper packaging, cheaper advertising, same product, lower price. Hotels do not typically have security, maintenance, or housekeeping on staff 24/7. Once housekeeping finishes cleaning all the rooms, the entire staff leaves except for one front desk employee. Yeah, the number of times I, at the time a 19-year-old kid, was left completely alone at a mid-size and largely recognizable hotel brand was honestly kind of wild. I had essentially no clue what I was doing. People would call that something in their room was broken, and literally the best I could do was go up and just kind of troubleshoot random shit. And then during that time, the front desk was completely unattended. This was at like 9 p.m. too, not 3 a.m. I used to work at a 600-plus room Hyatt. After 11 o'clock, one front desk person, two housekeepers, one phone operator, one cop every night in case drunk people would cause a scene or bums would sneak in. I used to be security from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock before getting switched to the front desk. I used to walk through the whole hotel, all 30 floors, and make sure bums didn't sneak in to sleep in the hallways and feast on old banquet food or shoot up in the parking garage stairs. I would walk around with the housekeeping manager, he became a good friend, and shoot the shit because I didn't actually have anything I needed to do. I used to see all the fucked up and nasty shit people would do to the hotel rooms. The manager, my friend, used to get called for all the weird stuff, and I would just go with him to hang out, and we could joke about it and judge people being weirdos. Pro tip: if a hotel has carpet, don't touch it with your bare feet. The carpet might get cleaned twice a year, but is vacuumed every stay. But you have no idea how many people spill food. Every drink imaginable, piss, vomit, everything. They have a special ozone machine that fully deodorizes everything in the room, basically fumigating it. Then a little spray on the carpet, and good as new. It is crazy, and a little disturbing how well those things work. Pro tip 2. Security at a big hotel was definitely the cushiest job I have ever had. I had free reign and master keys to the entire hotel and all convention banquet areas. All I had to do was patrol, which entailed me once or twice a night walking by every room in the hotel, making sure all the doors were locked by the end of the night. There was a shitload of doors and back hallways, housekeeping floor, 2 engineering floors, 2 kitchens, and like 15, 20 convention banquet areas. But this basically gave me 8 hours a day where I didn't have to be anywhere at any specific time. I just wandered aimlessly around the hotel and hung out with people from all the different departments. I made friends with all the banquet manager girls because I would get called to unlock banquet rooms that the setup team left locked and would help them get all the lights on and make sure nobody was sleeping in there. But I got hooked up with all the banquet foods. There were always extras. So many different snacks. Wedding food, bagels, breakfast tacos, breakfast sandwiches, so many cookies, and little desserts. After work, everyone would meet up at the bar down the street and get wasted and hang out. It was awesome. Became friends with everyone at the front desk and eventually got moved over there because I thought I wanted to get into hotel management. Honestly, housekeeping manager is the way to get into hotel management. The front office just gets you yelled at by angry business travelers. I would never go back and work in a hotel now, but if you are in your early 20s or in college, highly recommended. Not sure if anyone will even read this, but this is basically just me unlocking forgotten memories from 2009.